Right, welcome you all to Audit and Assurance webinar session. Today, day 4. And yesterday we discussed test of control and how to write or how to approach answer for test of control. And also we studied how this particular scenario might be tested. So how this scenario is developed. So we identified how to read that scenario, how to approach that scenario, sort of things we discussed yesterday. So today, I'm going to discuss substantive audit procedures, a major area again in audit and assurance. And in recent past papers, what I observed is most of the questions, sometime up to 30, 35 marks also in certain papers given for this topic. Right? And the main problem of this substantive procedure related questions, student didn't understand how this particular topic is tested in the paper. So what are the possibilities of questions which might tested in the exam? And the second thing is they don't have a proper idea how to write a proper substantive procedure. And the third biggest mistake that most of the students around the world they are doing is they just by heart and they just write down procedures. And the fourth thing, the main mistake is they just expect a content from financial statement for substantive procedures. If I say for an example, substantive procedures for revenue, substantive procedures for sales, substantive procedures for some kind of expense. Likewise, they expect a content from financial statement for this area. But sometime examiner might give some cases problems, right? Sales and sales related problem is not same. So you can't write all the substantive procedures for sales related problem. Sorry. So you should write a procedure. That procedure should resolve the problem given, right? So that's okay, fine. So what I observed in this substantive procedure part is earlier whatever the things is examined in advanced audit and assurance, which means procedures for core issues, problems. Examiner will give certain problems and he asks you to apply procedures to resolve that problems. This type of questions are tested in advanced audit and assurance earlier, right? Now, what I feel was the examiner taking a portion of that simple problems is transferring to audit and assurance. So earlier past papers, if you practice, yes, the questions are more financial statement content related questions. But now examiner is testing both, right? So let's discuss what is substantive procedure, then let's discuss how to approach substantive procedure questions, and let's discuss what are the possibilities of the questions, how this area can be tested, what are the possibilities, how this examiner can test this particular topic in your paper, and then we'll see how to write answer, how to approach answer, or else how to write substantive procedures, right? So let's discuss this today, and I hope today's session is very important session. Today's session will be very important session for you all, because in recent past this is the area highly tested for 20, sometimes 30 marks as well. And one more request, that I'm kind request for you all, you can by heart, but try to understand. If it is you are by hearting, try to understand the rationale. Without rationale, don't just by heart, don't blankly apply these by heart procedures, whatever the procedures you by heart, don't just blankly apply to the questions without reading the question properly, right? So let's move to the topic of substantive audit procedures. And the first point that I want to mention, yesterday also I touched this area. Substantive procedure is something that auditor perform, after test of control. So if an audit firm normally perform test of control first, and then subsequently they perform substantive procedures. And by performing both test of control and substantive procedure, auditor obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. and then they moves to completion part, and finally they are reporting opinion. And then when it comes to this substantive audit procedures, it deals with the test of detail and analytical review procedures. So today we're going to discuss this particular substantive procedure part, because yesterday we had a discuss about test of control. Clear? Right. Just a brief idea about substantive procedures. In audit and assurance, most of the time, this substantive audit procedure questions, it focused on income statement element or income statement related problem. Try to understand, try to differentiate both the income statement element or income statement related problems. For example, substantive procedure over sales or sales related problem. For example, if I take sales related problem, simple example I can choose like this. Uh, the sales figures for next year also recognized in the current year. So that's the mistake made by client. So they gave that core problem to you all and they asked substantive procedures. So if they ask like this, here the problem is something related with the cutoff. So you can't write substantive procedures as general sales substantive procedures here, because you need to write substantive procedures to solve that particular problem, right? So both are possible. And when it comes to balance sheet, that is also same. Balance sheet content can be tested, or else a problem related with the balance sheet is also possible. And when it comes to estimates, yes, that is also problem related or else a content. For example, it can be a provision or it can be a provision related problem. And again, yes, disclosures also possible. They can ask substantive procedures for disclosure requirement also, right? So these are general idea about substantive procedures. Now let's move to discuss this substantive procedure part in detail. And while we are discussing substantive procedure area, if you have any questions, right? So whatever the doubts you have, you can ask. And very important, when we are practicing questions, it's your duty to come up with your own procedures. Don't just depend on my answer. Don't depend on my answer. That's the main mistake that we make, right? So always you should come up with your procedures, then we can check that is right or wrong. I will give my solutions as well, I will discuss my part, my judgment as well, but I'm expecting your output also, right? Because there is no correct procedure, there's no 100% correct procedure, because person to person, judgment to judgment, the procedures get changed. So that's the problem here. There is no clear answer script for these type of questions, right? So whatever the answers given by me, it's my judgment. So don't just depend only on it, right? So you should come up with your judgment, your practical experience in that case. And there is a question from Abbas. Is it right if say in risk area we use procedures when we answer as a response? In control area we apply test of control. Yes, yes. Risk response is also audit procedure, and test of control is also audit procedure. Substantive procedure is also audit procedure, but you can't use the word substantive procedure for all three areas. That is incorrect. Substantive procedure you cannot perform before TOC. If you are writing risk response comes under planning stage. That's why I use a common word, audit procedures. So all these things are audit procedures, but if you performed at the planning stage, it's a planning procedure. If you are performing at the controlling system stage, that is test of control. But if you are performing at the after test of control, that is what called a substantive procedure. But if you are doing the same thing at the subsequent review completion area, that is what called completion procedure. So likewise, everything is audit procedure. Audit procedure means what auditor is doing, right? But according to the stage of the audit, it will call with different terms, right? So hope Abbas understood. Your point is exactly correct. Okay, now let's move to substantive procedure part. Okay, Ashad, one more question he asked. So just as test of control are audit procedures to test the system, substantive procedures are procedures to test the session. Yes, correct. Fine, super. Both are procedures, but it is one procedure is moving towards the control activity or the system related. The other one is related with the financial statement and the assertions. Simple, understood. Super. Thank you. So that's the thing, summary. Fine. So let's move to substantive audit procedures. Substantive audit procedures. Right. As yesterday we discussed, I'll take the point from the yesterday's example anyway, right? But I'm moving a little depth, right, to understand how this system will work, right? So as per yesterday's explanation, let's take the same example, the sales system. Take the same example as a sales system. And let's assume I'm no need to explain these things in detail because we spent lots of time yesterday to discuss this part. So suppose if this control is ineffective, suppose if this control is ineffective, and which create the possibility for misstatement at financial statement level, right? If it is ineffective, if it is ineffective, there is a possibility, if this particular thing is ineffective, then there is a possibility financial statement misstatements at financial statement high, misstatements at financial statements high. So there is a possibility that there is a higher level of misstatements if these controls are ineffective. So test of control is something we performed at the system level. Test of control is something we perform at system level. Test of control is something we perform at system level. As the result of test of control, we concluded yes, this particular financial statement possibility of the misstatement is very high. Fine. Again, you can't perform test of control at financial statement because financial statement there is no control objectives to meet, because you can't test controls at financial statement level. Now, as a result of earlier failure at the control level, there are possibilities of misstatement transfer to financial statement. So as a result of this misstatement, what happens was the reliability or else trustworthiness of financial statement questionable. Simply the parties who wants to rely on this financial statement not in a position to rely because of reliability issues of financial statement. You got my point? So the reliability of financial statement, and also there is a high risk for auditor. I'll take that part as well. Audit risk is also high. Audit risk is also high. Very high audit risk. Why? Because of what? Inherent risk and the control risk. So this is not controlled by the auditor. It is come from the client side. Therefore, auditor not in a position to accept this financial statement as it is, and he cannot provide true and fair view after performing TOC, because there is a possibility the reliability of financial statement is questionable now, and the audit risk is also high. If you have a doubt how audit risk is high, misstatements of financial statement is high means that is because of control issue, control risk. Sometimes yes, there might be inherent risk also. Together, possibility, the audit risk is high. Now, as auditor, if you are at this stage, what you should do? You should reduce your audit risk to acceptable level, and it's your duty to improve the reliability of this financial statement, and you should check whether the financial statements are free from misstatement or not. That's your responsibility. That's your responsibility. Therefore, auditors are not stopping at this point. We have to test, we have to test things in detail now. We have to test things in detail at this stage. Hope you are clear up to this point, right? So we need to test detail at this stage, and at which point we are going to test, that is important. We are testing at financial statement level. So simply I can say test at financial statement level. Test at financial statement level is required. Test at financial statement level is required, because now we already test the controls and it is transferred to financial statement, because financial statement is prepared. The possibility of errors or mistake or misstatements at financial statement is high, audit risk is high. So we should test at financial statement level, because we want to reduce the audit risk at this case, right? Which type of audit risk? There is a question. Answer is, already I gave control risk, comma, inherent risk. Control risk, comma, inherent risk, both possible. Chances are very high for control risk. That's what I mentioned here, right? Because of this control failure, right? Ineffective control means your control is not met, control objective, right? So test at financial statement level is required. Clear? Now the problem is, auditors, now they are facing an issue when it comes to this test of control. Yesterday I explained, we are applying procedures to test certain things. That is simply we can call what. Yes, what I am testing. Yes, we are testing control activities. We are testing control objectives. That is what called test of control. I am inspecting certain things, whether to see whether it is authorized or not. That is control activity and control objective. So there are certain things to test under test of control. Now, again, at the financial statement level, I said at the financial statement level, there is no control. There is no what we call a control objective. It is not visible. Right? So we need some base. We need some base to perform substantive procedures. At financial statement, we need some base. What to test? That is the objective at this stage, right? So there is a question, if I understand right, substantive procedures are done on financial statement, test of control done at system. Yes, correct, brother, right? So I need some basis, because most of the students, they don't understand the meaning of assertion. That's the problem of this area. That's what I want to explain, try to understand. So here we should perform test at financial statement level. But that is substantive procedure. You guys know, I know that point. Yes, this is test of control at system level. At this level, if you are performing procedure, that is substantive procedure. That's simple. But try to understand the rationale at financial statement level, what I am going to test, what I am going to achieve. That is what call assertion. That is what call assertion. Because simply I can say at financial statement level, auditor's objective is assertion, but he want to test, that is assertion. You got my point? Financial statement level, we are not testing what? Control activities or control objectives. Simply, objective is testing assertions. Objective is testing assertions. Right? So I can say objective equals, I can use the word assertions. I can use the word assertions. So assertions are the objectives that auditor tests at financial statement level. So substantive procedures, we are trying to test at financial statement level. What we are testing? Assertions. That is the objective, right? And also, when it comes to this substantive procedures, you can't use the same assertions for all the problems. Simply, I can take a very simple example to explain this assertion. Assertions are the basis. Assertions are the objectives that auditor want to achieve. So let's take a doctor, a person. Let's take Awais. So Awais is into a doctor, and he want to. He is telling some stories. For example, he said, "I'm feeling like this. I'm feeling like that." He's saying so many things. And the doctor asks, "Okay, you feel fever? Yes, fever. Right. Okay. Is there any red color dots in your body? Yes, it's there. There are lots of red color body. Is body pain? Yes. Is a joint pain? Yes." So based on this symptom, doctor guess, yes, this person might affected with dengue. So that is simple judgment. So you can't confirm, right? So what you should do to confirm this particular issue? You should ask that particular person to take blood count, blood report. And blood count and blood report, that is what called assertion. Based on that only you can confirm whether it is misstated disease or not. So same procedure, same assertion, same treatment you can use for all the issues. Another person came and he fell down and there's a crack in his leg. The bone get break. If that is the case, will he ask him to take the blood report? Is that objective is correct? Is that base is correct? Wrong. So if the disease get changed, the basis should get changed. Likewise, if the financial statements get changed, the basis should get changed. That's why if it is an income statement, that income statement contents are tested through income statement assertions. If it is balance sheet elements, those balance sheet elements are tested through balance sheet elements assertions. If it is classifications, which means presentation or disclosure or notes, it is tested through disclosure assertions. Because we need to identify the proper objective or the basis to check those areas. Right? So there is a question, assertions are made by the management and auditor counter verify the assertions, right? Assertions are not made by the management. Assertions are common anyway. Assertions are the basis. It's common developed by ISA, right? So those assertions, auditors generally test those assertions. But these assertions, you can't say it is developed by management. When management preparing financial statement in line with the accounting standard, automatically these assertions will meet. I'll make it very simple. There is a accounting concept called matching concept. So for a particular year's income should match against with the expense. Cutoff, assertion. If you consider that regulatory framework, if you consider the accounting standards, yes, definitely you are meeting the assertions. So you can't say the assertion is something developed by management. No, it is something required from the management. That is something required from the management, and the auditor is verifying that requirement. That point I can say like that, right? Okay. So here, these assertions simply I can say yes, it deals with 3 points, 3 areas. Most of the students they confuse with this. Keep in mind there are 3 types of assertions. One is income statement assertions. Income statement assertions. You can use different words, transaction and like that, right? So I'll use very simple income statement assertion. Second thing is balance assertion. Third thing we can say assertions. So these are the 3 types of assertions that we use. These are the 3 types of assertions that we use. These are the things that auditor used to test financial statement level misstatement. Clear? And finally, what we are doing is We are performing substantive procedures. Substantive procedures are procedures that is performed by auditor at financial statement level, not system level, to check whether financial statements are free from misstatement. Can you hear me now? Just check whether is it okay now? Can you? Is it okay? Also, it's okay. Is it okay? Can you hear me? Should I continue? Can you hear me? Again breaking. Now is it clear? No. Still, I'm here, but it's raining. That's the thing, right? So it's fine. I'm here. I didn't know until this webinar finished. I'll be here. Don't worry. Right. Okay. So substantive procedures. Simply, I can say I got some question in between. I missed that. Right. So I'll check that also. Okay, I'm really good in income statement and balance sheet assertion, but I confuse with the disclosure assertions. Don't worry, disclosure assertions also similar to balance sheet assertions. Similar to balance sheet assertion. Most of the time in the disclosure, we are testing presentations and the classifications. We are testing the presentation and the classification, whether it is sufficiently presented or whether it is correctly presented, whether it is correctly classified, right? So don't bother much about classification assertion. It is not much examinable at your stage. Income and balance sheet assertions are safe. That is okay. If you are okay with that, that is more than enough, right? Okay. So here, when it comes to this story, when it comes to this process, the later after test of control, entire thing is known as substantive audit procedures. This entire part is known as substantive audit procedures. Substantive audit procedures, but this substantive procedures performed at financial statement level. It is at financial statement level. You need to remember that first. You need to remember that first. Clear? Any question over this process? Any questions over this process? Any questions? Right, fine. So this is how it works. Now let's say how to approach. Yesterday also I did the same, right? So substantive audit procedure and test of control together we can gather audit evidence. I'm not touching that part now. So here just I want to make you all comfort with how to write substantive audit procedures first. How to write substantive audit procedures. And before, if you want, just take a screenshot. Anyway, this entire material I will share with you all tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow the last day I can upload everything because I'm adding more points. So no need to add daily basis. So tomorrow I'll add that point. But anyway, just take a screenshot. So let's now move to how to write audit procedures, or not, how to write substantive procedures. How to write substantive procedures. I'll come to that point now. So if the question how to write substantive procedures, if the question is how to write substantive procedures, can you tell again disclosure? Disclosure mainly we are testing a classification and the presentation at financial statement level. Normally the disclosure requirements are tested at financial statement level, basically classification and the presentation part. But at A8 level, audit and assurance level, I don't feel that classification, the disclosure assertions are much important. Most probably some material they used only income statement and the balance sheet assertion. And disclosure assertions are similar to balance sheet assertions, right? So those are things I want to share. So I agree that TOC is at system level and the substantive test is at assertion level. But why does TOC differentiate to evaluate operating effectiveness at assertion level? Yes, if the test of controls, that's why yesterday, it's a very good question, Ashad. Yesterday I explained a point. Yes, substantive procedures directly testing assertions, but test of controls are indirectly touch with the assertions. If the controls are effective, are we performing more substantive procedures or less substantive procedures? Less substantive procedures, which means you should know the control will cover the substantive assertions, right? So whatever the work should be done by substantive procedure is performed by TOC. But in the TOC, we are testing the control objectives and control activity. If those controls are effective, automatically it meets assertions. Automatically the reliability improved. So objective controls, objective also improving reliability in the financial statement. Assertions objective also improving reliability in the financial statement. So if the controls are effective, less chance to test the assertion, because this byproduct, it already tested the assertion. As I understood. That's why we said evaluate operating effectiveness at assertion level. So if the effectiveness of the control will make sure that particular element is financial element is covered, that assertion. You got my point. That's the reason we reduce substantive procedure if the controls are effective. If the controls are effective, right? Okay, it's a good question. So, right? That's what you need to understand the rationales. If you understood the rationales, then you can make the theory more convenient, right? Okay. So how to write substantive procedures? Before that, I want to explain one thing. If they ask how to write substantive procedures, keep one thing in your mind. It include two things. One is test of detail. One is test of detail. And the other one is analytical review procedures. Analytical review procedures, right? So I'll explain a bit. Substantive procedures. Can you give break for Friday prayer? That you should check with the organizer, because here I prayed already, right? I finished my prayers only. I start the session, but you check with the organizer, right? Okay, fine. So substantive procedures, basically, these substantive procedures covered two things, as I mentioned. One is test of detail. One is of detail. And the other one is analytical review procedures. Analytical review procedures. Analytical procedures, right? Okay, now I'll explain the nature of these two. Because if you understand the nature of these two, then there's a problem. Clear? Okay, concentrate, it's very important. So here, let's take a situation like this. Let's take the same story, doctor story. You're moving to a doctor. You feel some problem in your body, right? You want to diagnose that issue, so you're moving to a doctor, and you're saying something. Yes, I'm headache, body pain, fever. Likewise, you are giving some symptoms. The doctor will take all the symptoms and he will guess. Okay, if this is the symptom, that might be the case. Okay, this might be the disease. That guessing is kind of analytical review procedure. So analytical review procedure is something, it's a preliminary test. And if you feel, yes, if the matter is too serious, What you will do, if the matter is too serious, let's assume you are a doctor story. If your matter is too serious, you will ask him to take some test, some lab test, which means you are moving to assertion. That is what called test of detail. You got my point. So when a problem comes, just first of all, the auditor, we put analytical review procedures and diagnose that issue to see whether it is too significant or it is immaterial thing. If it is too significant, then I pass that to test of detail, because testing detail is not easy. It will take more time. You got my point. And the second scenario, I'll come like this. If the controls are effective, still we should perform substantive procedure, right? So if the controls are effective, then chances, possibility of errors at financial statement level is low. So auditor can use his judgment to use analytical review procedures rather than moving to test of detail. So these are the judgmental thing. What procedure auditor should touch? Test of detail or analytical review procedures. It is depends on the auditor. Sorry, I'll ask you a very basic question based on my explanation. Which one will reduce detection risk as much as possible? Not only detection risk, entire audit risk. Which one? Test of detail or analytical review procedure? Which one will reduce audit risk more? Someone please respond. Test of detail or analytical review procedure, which one will reduce audit risk more? Exactly test of detail. Exactly test of detail. Exactly test of detail. Why? Because we are testing in detail, definitely chances are very high. It will reduce the possibility of the misstatement. Analytical review procedures mean it's a kind of a basic investigation. It won't resolve significant issues. There is a possibility for misstatement, right? So keep that in your mind. When it comes to substantive procedure questions, you should not write much more analytical review procedures, because it is easy. If I take sales, most of the students will by heart like this: comparing current year sales with previous year sales and identify the difference and discuss this difference with management. One procedure, right? Second procedure, compare current year sales with industry sales, industry company rate, and identify any difference, discuss with management. Third one, compare current year sales with budgeted sales and discuss any difference comes with the management. Fourth one, perform a trend analysis over last 1 year sales and identify the variance significance. See, all these procedures are what? Analytical review procedures. If you ask in your paper, if examiner asks you to write down 5 procedures, if examiner asks you to write 5 substantive procedures, I suggest you write one analytical review procedure for test of detail. That is important. That will give more meaning to the examiner. Yes, the students know how to handle this particular thing. If you are writing only analytical review procedure, examiner might think what this fellow is doing. The thing is risky, control is ineffective. So we are asking him to write substantive procedures, and this fellow is writing only analytical review procedure, a lazy fellow. As a result of this, audit risk might be high. So I won't give full marks. You try to understand the rationale. So when it comes to a composition of the answer, you should give more priority to test of detail rather than giving more priority to analytical review procedures. I'm not saying you should skip analytical review procedure, maximum one or two, but you should move more productive answers to prove that you are keeping your audit risk at minimum level in the exam. So when examiner read your answer, yes, this student is reducing his risk to acceptable level. Salute, I should give full marks. You got my point. So those are the rational points. So when the students are by heart audit procedures, substantive procedures, they feel convenient when it comes to ARP. They feel convenient when it comes to ARP, but it will mislead. It will mislead when it comes to the rational. When it comes to the rational. So Umair Abbas, there is a question he asked. Means if we feel more risky area, then we use more test of detail. Exactly. What I suggest you is all the areas you should assume high risk. All the areas you should assume high risk. Why? Because if the exam they ask substantive procedures for sales, in the exams they ask substantive procedures for purchases, in the exam they ask substantive procedures for inventory. Are they giving test of control detail? No. So you don't know whether related test of control is effective or ineffective. So better prevention is better than cure. So you should take what? You should take what? Yes, control risk is high, ineffective control, so I should test in detail. That's the correct assumption. And also Ahmad, sir, first to apply analytical procedure, then test of detail. That's arrangement I really like. Doctor is also doing the same thing. So first thing you should do what? Analytical review procedure. The first procedure, analytical review procedure. This is the arrangement, small things, but it will be meaningful. So when you move it to doctor, doctor will ask what is happening, what you feel, what are the symptoms, analytical review procedure. Then he will move to test of detail. Do the same thing. Then the examiner will understand, yes, the students know the rationale. He didn't just by heart the topic, he know what to do. You got my point. That's the arrangement. Like my test of control also, I arrange certain things. If that arrangement you followed, you understood the rationale. Likewise here, you need to understand the rationale, give ARP first, then move it test of detail. I'm not saying if you change the order, it is wrong. No, it is not like that. But it is more meaningful. It is more meaningful. This is what auditors will work. This is what auditors will work. The people who are working in audit firms might know, yes, we are performing ARP and we identify the risk level. If we feel it is high risk, we move to TOD. Sometimes if the control is effective, then we directly move to ARP, be satisfied, we stop with that point. So that's the starting point. So ARP is something like gate. First you should open the gate to move inside your house. House is like something test of detail. Understood. The relationships understood. The rationales understood. Is it clear? Because without knowing these relationships or the rationale, if you by heart answers and just you repeat, you can't, you can pass, you can score 50, but you can't get a prize, right? Normally 80s, 90s, you can show your colors because you know things properly, right? Any questions, any question over this explanation? Understood? Is it clear? Is it clear? Shall I move to the other part? Right, fine. So normally when it comes to this test of detail, I'm going to explain how to write substantive procedures. That is test of detail. Keep that in mind. So whatever the things I'm going to write or explain here, how to write substantive procedure, I'm going to explain test of detail, how to test things in detail. Here, what you should do is, as usual, test of control also, I touch the same thing. Here, what you should do is, you should cover audit procedures again. Certain procedures we used. One is inspect. The other one is observation. The other one is observation. Concentrate, very important. No? That's why I'm very slowly covering this point before moving to a question. No? Third thing, I can simply say recalculation. Fourth one, I can say inquiry. Fifth one, I can say re-performance. And sorry, re-performance. And next one, I can say confirmation. Confirmation. Did I miss any procedures? Did I miss any procedures? If so, let me know. And here, we generally use ARP. Simply, I can use the terms ratios. I can use the word terms ratios, or else I can say trend, or else I can simply say comparison. Simply say comparison, or else I can say reasonableness. reasonableness test. So all these things we can put under this basic diagnosing problems, right? And keep one thing in your mind: this is very easy. This is very easy. You can just by heart these things. But if it is easy, again you can't score full marks. That's what I'm saying, because of the rationale, right? So I suggest you to touch ARP at 1 is enough, then directly move to prove the assertions part. Directly move to prove the assertion part. Clear? So I'll take this box here, because I can take it here. I can take it here, right? Fine. Understood? Is it clear? Right. Now, when it comes to test of detail, yes, we are using audit procedures. We are using audit procedures, and audit procedures applied where? Are we going to apply audit procedures? We are not applying at system level. We are applying at financial statement level. We are applying at financial statement level. Yeah, applying at financial statement level. So at the financial statement level, in the sense we can say, as per my example sales, this is the sales system. So it affects sales. It affects revenue. So revenue and sales, these are exist at financial statement level. One is income statement, one is balance sheet. One is income statement and one is balance sheet. So I just take as per my example only sales. I just take as per my example only. I am going to apply this substantive procedures over sales. I'm going to apply substantive procedures over sales. So sales, if you are applying over sales, it affects both the, but I'm, for example, I'm just taking it as a sales. If you are applying sales, observe these procedures you are applying over sales, and what you are trying to achieve, what you are trying to achieve, what you are trying to achieve, or what is the objective in this? Objective is, don't just say assertion, it is incomplete. I am saying income statement assertion. Say income statement assertions. So I'll take income statement assertions. So at financial statement level, sales system is ineffective. It affects sales and revenue. Sales is income statement part. So I'll test income statement assertion by applying audit procedures. If all these assertions are satisfied, that element is verified. This sales element is verified. So see, I can say sales verified. Sales verified. Let's take its assertions are fully covered. Everything is perfect, which means sales figure free from misstatement. Sales figure free from misstatement. Sales figure free from misstatement. Likewise, the same is revenue means revenue is verified, which means revenue is free from material misstatements. Right? Instead of misstatement, we can say it is material misstatement. Hope you all understood what I mean by this. Clear? Don't worry, otherwise I'll move again, right? Reasonableness test means, yeah, whether it is it's a judgmental test. Normally, whether, for example, useful life is 5 years, client said, whether it is 5 years or not, it's a kind of a reasonableness test. The assumptions used by management is reasonable or not, right? The validity point, right? Again, I forgot to screenshot the previous slide. Don't worry, I'll give time, right? Could you tell a little bit about reasonableness? Reasonableness means basically when it comes to these estimates. I told no, when it comes to substantive procedures, there is a content called estimates. So when it comes to these estimates, we need to see its reasonableness. Its reasonableness, right? Whether it is reasonable or not. It's a simple judgmental arrangement. We apply professional judgment to do the reasonableness part. Don't think much about it, right? Because it's come when you guys are moving, when you are moving to advanced audit and assurance level, yes, we can discuss that reasonableness test in detail. Reasonable means, yeah, that's what I told. The reasonableness test means we are applying professional judgment to see whether assumptions used by client is right or wrong. I'll take a simple example. You might discuss in your financial management subject investment appraisal. Investment appraisal. In the investment appraisal, cost of capital. Who decide? Management decide whether it is correct or not. So we can simply use our judgment. That is what called reasonableness. Depreciation rate, whether it is reasonable or not. So we can perform reasonableness tests simply taking industry. For example, also when we want I think we get, for example, particular asset is revalued to 2 million. Now you have a problem whether this revaluation is reasonable or not. So you can take industry figure, industry same asset used by another industry company, and you can do a test that is kind of a reasonableness test. It's a kind of a reasonableness test. Right? Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes, correct, correct. Proof of total is reasonable. Yes, correct. Tariq, correct. Proof of total test. Proof in total, yes, that is reasonable. Correct. Okay, so this knowledge is important. This knowledge is important, and this will give an idea how you're going to approach substantive procedure. This will give an idea how to approach substantive procedure, right? So always don't just write these ARP a lot in your answer. Try to reduce it. Try to reduce it. And if you unable to write test of detail, if you feel I can't write anything, then that is fine. But try to write more TOD. That will give a proper indication to examiner or the marker that you understood that. With good question, Aves. Yes, with sales, receivables will not verify. Yes, it's verified. That's why I told that. That's the reason. Let's take the income statement assertion is completeness. Classification, presentation. The same assertion is comes under balance sheet also. So that is what we call key assertion. What is key assertion? Certain assertions, when you checked at one time, it will confirm the other areas also. For example, in the sales, if you check completeness, yes, the receivable is also almost to some extent tested. If you test occurrence, yes, to some extent the receivables. So it will support. It will support. But still you should perform. Some other areas is not covered by here, income statement. For example, receivable valuation, right? Impairment, valuation, factoring, all these things comes, again, you need to do a valuation part. So not 100%, to some extent it is covered away. Yes, your judgment point is correct. So normally substantive procedures deals with two things. One is test of detail and the other one is analytical review procedures. Analytical review procedures, you can diagnose the problem, you can diagnose the misstatement, then it's your duty to take a decision whether I should move further with test of detail or else whether I should stop with this point. So if I feel yes, risk is high, I should move further, then we should perform test of detail. Test of detail includes audit procedures at financial statement level, and it's going to test assertions, right? Explain one example of test of detail of tangible non-current asset with procedures. Don't worry, there are lots of questions we're going to do, right? So nothing to worry, I'll do, right? So you ask one example, test of detail of tangible asset with procedures. Right? Okay, that student asked, therefore, I'll take that non-current asset as an example here. So what is my topic now? What I going to explain, what I want to explain is how to write substantive procedure. So that, to explain that, first of all, I explain the backgrounds. First of all, I explain the backgrounds. Now you know the approach. So let's quickly move to example. For example, how to write. how to write, right? So one, procedure one. Okay. Don't we use elements of test of detail in test of control? Don't we use the elements of test of detail? Elements of test of detail, simply these all these procedures we used in the test of control as well. But we are using these procedures with the controls. But here we are using these procedures with the assertions. There we are using these procedures at system level. Here we are using these procedures at financial statement level. Okay, procedure one. I'll give the example first. Right. Let's take motor vehicle. If you are auditor, you moves to a client place, client A moves to a client place, client A. So in this client, they have a motor vehicle value 500,000 Pakistan rupee. They said they have a motor vehicle, they recognized in their financial statement 500,000 Pakistan rupee, right? My question, if this is the case, how are you going to verify this? Let's take already you perform, sorry, give me a second. Give me a second. Let's take this is a client again. Understand the story properly, right? It's a very simple example, but you can able to get the rationales very clearly. Uh, because in the practice, most of the auditors, what they are doing is they will take previous year working paper and they just copy it and they print and they give. So that is not the way of working, right? So the people who are working in audit firms might know, right, how you should work. Anyway, I'll share my experience. Let's take, I'm also auditor. Let's assume you all are auditors. Now we are moving to a client place called client A. And in that client place, there is a motor vehicle. The value is 500,000 Pakistan rupee, right? And already we performed a test of control relate with property, plant and equipment. And we come to a conclusion that controls are not that effective. That controls are not that effective. We already performed. Fine. If I mention this or not, you should assume like that. Right? You should assume like that. So because prevention is better than cure in all the cases. So motor vehicle 500,000 related controls are not sound. Now my question: how you going to verify? How you going to verify this motor vehicle 500,000? Someone tell some procedures for this. So first verify the existence. Invoice. Inspect purchase invoice. Check the physical existence. With registration copy. Good, good. Analytical procedure. Okay. Obtain a fixed asset register. Confirmation from third party. Why you said confirmation from third party, Khan? Inspect non-current asset register to check existence to confirm a motor vehicle is exist. Inspect ownership document. Okay. Okay, fine. If I'm an auditor, when I move to this motor vehicle, I have a question. Most of the time, balance sheet items are balance sheet. Most of the time, when it comes to balance sheet items, we directly move to test of detail because you can't compare balance sheet figures with the previous year. That's not the correct rationale, right? So generally, for balance sheet elements, directly we move to TOD, right? Okay, good. Now I'll explain. The rationale first. And so if I move to client, first question I will ask from myself, define asset. Within myself, I will ask this question. I should define the word asset. Asset is something. It can be a resource. It can be a resource controlled by entity. It is an asset is a resource which is controlled by an entity which brings economic benefit. Which brings economic benefit. That is asset. This is my first question. I will ask within myself. Then second question is, what is control? What is control? So the word control, these are things of preparation now before moving to client. The word control equals legal ownership. The word control equals substance over form. So if I purchased an asset, yes, I have legal ownership, I can control. If I don't have legal ownership, substance over form, leases, if the risk and rewards are bared by long-term lease as per updated standard, yes, still I have control. So I need to define this too. Yes, that's control. Then I'll move to client. My first question from the client, this motor vehicle 500,000 owned by you, the company, or not? Or it's a leased asset? That's my first question. Because I want to see whether this motor vehicle is really controlled by the entity. Otherwise, it is not an asset. It is the asset not belongs to a company. It can be exist. If you are testing first existence, see the rationales. Huh? If you are testing existence, that it is exist. If you are testing whether its value is correct by looking at the invoice, that value is also correct. Which means you are telling that company can able to recognize this asset. No. First of all, you need to check what rights and obligation, whether this company have right. That right comes through the control. Whether they have right to recognize this vehicle as an asset. This is how we arranged assertions. This is how we arranged assertions. So I should ask that legal ownership. Legal ownership alone will not be defined control. How? So if you are an auditor, how are you going to verify the control? Without, okay, legal ownership is also a part, but apart from legal ownership, but yeah, that's why I mentioned legal ownership or substance over form. Here in this part, I clearly mentioned legal ownership or substance over form. So my question is, I move to a client place and I will ask from the client whether you guys own this asset or else whether you guys lease this asset. This question will cover both legal ownership and substance over form. And if the client respond, yes, we own this asset, then I should move to test documents called legal ownership documents. If the client say, no, it is a leased asset, then you should move to lease related documents. Through that, what you can do is you can able to confirm. You can able to confirm. Right? Understood. So first procedure. So in this case, I say the assertion is rights and obligation. In this case, the assertion is rights and obligation. Right? So now I'm going to explain how to write audit procedure. So these are the basic preparation if you are an auditor that you should do before moving to detailed test. Right? You should pick what areas I should test first. Right? So in your substantive procedures answer, if I have legal ownership but I lease the property to other party, I cannot be it's my asset. Am I right? Yes, correct. So if your risk and rewards are transferred, if this ownership transferred to that party, they can recognize, you can't recognize. So you can take that. Exactly, yes. Right? So this part, first what I should do is, I can take one perspective, auditor, right? What we should do is select, okay, a sample of assets, select a sample of assets from asset register and inspect legal ownership documents right? If you want, you can take lease agreements to confirm, what is the assertion, rights and obligations, to confirm right and obligation. So this is a procedure. In this procedure, how to test this procedure is right or wrong. So examiner is expecting three things from you when you are writing substantive procedure. Examiner is expecting three things when you are writing a substantive procedure. One is action. Action is the procedure that you used. So in this case, the action is instruction. So this action can be visible. Sometimes this action is not visible, right? But when you are reading the procedure, you should be able to understand what action that auditor do. Normally, it's a procedure or else anything that should prove that auditor performed some kind of action. And the second thing is source. Second thing is source. It can be a person, it can be a document, it can be a process, right? So it can be external party. Anything we can say the source, right? So in this case, the source is what? The legal documents, the lease agreements. So this document is the source. So identifying the correct source is also a problem. Sorry, most of the students, when they are writing procedures, they don't know what to test. What is this source? That is a main problem where you guys lose marks. And the third thing is objective. The third thing, that is objective. So objective means, in the sense, simply I can say this is what assertions, this is what assertions, or else we can simply take it as objectives. So you should mention, sometimes this assertion also directly given, sometimes this assertion also hidden. They didn't mention the assertion in the procedure, but when you are reading a procedure, you can able to understand, yes, this particular assertion is going to cover, right? So these are the three things that you should remember. These are the three things that you should remember when you writing a procedure, right? So in this case, I can take this inspect as action, and also I can take ownership documents or lease agreements as source, and I can say rights and obligation as assertions or as objectives. So this is how you should write substantive procedures. This is how you should write substantive procedures, right? Understood? Any questions? Any example of action? Any example means the procedures are the actions. It can be review, we can compare, recalculate, reperform. All these are actions generally, right? So how about valuation? So, yes, you can write a valuation for here as well, no? Right? So you can write another procedure for valuation. I'm not saying wrong. Objectives are the assertions that we are trying to achieve. So that's what I explained. When it comes to financial statement level, what is auditor wants to achieve? That is assertions. So generally assertions are the objectives. In this case, rights and objectives. I want to confirm the ownership, rights and obligation. So you can check existence also. You can write some more procedures to do check existence. You can write another procedures to check valuation. Everything you can do, right? Always your question, can we perform ARP for rights? How? Where is a description of assertion? Where is description of assertion? Now assertion description here. Rights and obligation I marked as an assertion here. Balance sheet assertion, right? Okay, I'll give 1 minute. Just quickly take a screenshot. Then we can move to question. We can move to question directly. Okay. Now I'll give one more example, but I need answers from you all. Right. Procedure. Sorry. Procedure 2. I'm taking simple examples, right? I'm not moving to complicated thing now. Let's take sales 5,000. This is given. So how to, okay, amount not required. Write down at least 1 or 2 procedures for sales. External valuer. Yes, it can be an action. You can obtain a service from the external valuer. It is an action. Yes, it comes under confirmation. Any other example of objective? All the assurance are objective. It can be right and obligation, it can be cut off, it can be completeness, it can be existence. Everything is objective. And what is the difference between valuation and completeness? Completeness, whether it is fully recorded or not. Valuation, whether it is correctly valued or not. You can't say something is correctly valued, it is complete. Fine. So if you said if it is complete, it is correctly valued. No. So there are valuation basis. There is a valuation basis. So valuation is something we can simply say in terms of this valuation assumptions that we use, whether it is reflecting the fair value or whether as per the standard. For example, if I take IA 16, if it is initially recognized asset, means the valuation is whether correctly cost measured. And also when it comes to subsequently fair value assets, revalued amount or cost. So that is what valuations. Completeness means whether it is fully recorded or not. If something is fully recorded, you can't say it is correctly valued. Understood? For example, inventory 5,000 at cost recognized, complete. But out of that inventory, some inventory's net realizable value is less than cost. That is valuation. So give some procedures for sales. A complete procedure. Don't just write down like this. For example, if you're writing like this, inspect sales invoice. If you're writing procedures like this, it is wrong. Inspect sales invoice. Wrong. It is wrong. Don't do that. I need a complete procedure. It is wrong. I need a complete procedure. That procedure should include an action, source, and objective. Inspect sales invoice to verify whether they are recorded in the correct accounting period to verify cutoff. I'll take these procedures, Ishfaq. I'll take your procedure to explain a bit. Theoretically, your procedure is right. Practically, we think whether we can do this, right? So just that is learning, right? So why I take this? Because I want to explain, right? See this student, inspect sales invoice. How per year, how many sales might occur for a company? How many sales invoice? There are plenty of invoice. Is it possible to inspect everything? So you are writing a procedure where you can inspect all the sales invoices to verify whether they are recorded in the correct accounting period or not. That is correct. Theoretically correct. Practically it is not possible. Practically it is not possible. This is something what we can say is, if you want to resolve corona issue, you should test the PCR. PCR test should be performed to entire world. That's a simple procedure, right? Because if you perform PCR for entire world, within a 1 day, yes, we can. If we perform like that, we can resolve this issue. Make it simple. The second point is it possible? You got my point. So this is correct. I'm not saying wrong. This is correct, but I'm not saying wrong. But my question is whether is it possible? It will take another 1 year to finish it off this process, right? So fine, I'm not saying wrong. I'm not saying wrong. Verify sample of invoice. Right. This student use another word, verify sample of invoice. The same procedure, if you use the word sample, that is correct. I'll come to that point also. I'll come to that point. I'll explain that point also. Before that, there are some other answers. I want to check just whether your wordings are right or wrong. My God, there are lots of procedures. Okay. Check audit trial of ledger to source documents to ensure sales have been taken place. Instead of source documents, if you please mention what is the document, that's fine. Other than that, the procedure is right. Select a sample of sales invoice and review whether they are completely recorded to verify completeness. Select a sample of sales invoice and review. Is it possible to confirm by reviewing sales invoice completeness? Is it possible? You are taking an invoice and you are reviewing. You are seeing that invoice and you are saying yes, it is completely recorded. Is it correct? Is it possible? Think about this procedure. You are selecting a sales invoice and review whether they are completely recorded to verify completeness. I have an issue. I give you an invoice, you are reviewing. Is it possible to say that is complete? I have that question. And inspect sample of invoices to verify prices, charge as compared to standard rate for accuracy and the valuation. I'm happy with the Hussain answer. Now he said, yes, I will take a sample of invoice, I will take the standard price and I will recalculate or whatever. Instead of inspect, I can use the word recalculate. I can recalculate the amount mentioned in the invoice to see the accuracy. That point is okay. I'm really happy if you use the word recalculation in that part. You can't inspect no standard rate and computed rate. You are just inspecting. That is not correct. You should compare, or else you should the word compare. So sample invoice, but I am happy with that procedure. For sample of invoices, match the balance with relevant supplier accounts to ensure balances on invoices are accurate. Again, your point is the scope is not possible. So if you are an audit firm, right? Okay, there is a sales invoice. Now you want to verify the sales invoice. What you are trying to do is you are calling your supplier, right? Send your accounts details. I want to verify the sales figure, right? So that is practically those are the issues, right? Verify the sample of sales invoice. This procedure is okay. That you said, I think. Support other procedures. Compare with prior year and budgeted sales to confirm adequacy. ARP, yes. Select the sample of sales from sales ledger. Superb, superb, superb. This is what I want. Select the sample of sales from sales ledger and verify with relative GDN sales invoice to ensure accuracy. Always everything is correct. The assertion is wrong. I'll come to that assertion later. Okay. Select a sample of GDN, okay, agree with receivable to confirm completeness. Superb. Asad, your point is correct. I'll come to these points. How I'll explain these points, don't worry. Inspect the sales ledger. Answer is wrong because you didn't mention what you are going to do. Obtain a breakdown of invoice, compare the sales price to authorized sales price, please confirm accuracy. Yes, correct. Inspect sales invoices on sample basis, compare them to sales recorded in the sales register to confirm sales are recorded. Okay. Inspect GDN to confirm sales has been taken place to confirm accuracy. By inspecting GDN, is it possible to check confirm accuracy? I'll give you an invoice. You are inspecting. Is it possible to confirm is it accurate? That is a weak procedure anyway. Take a sample of sales invoice and see audit trial, like check GDN, so we can see the sale is occurred. Cows, say sample of sales invoice to GDN, sales invoice to GDN occurrence. Correct, correct. Select a sample of GDN and agree with receivable listing to confirm completeness. Correct. I would like to take the screenshot to the previous page. Okay, wait. I'll give time. Nine. Okay, now I'll come to this point. I'll take this procedure first, right? Theoretically, it is correct. And one student said, sir, instead of inspect of sales invoice, if they change a sample of sales invoice, it is correct. Right. Okay, now let's take, I'll change as per this because you need to understand why it is wrong. Select a sample of invoices, right? So now cutoff means what? Whether it is recorded in the correct accounting period or not. That is cutoff. Let's 1st of January year is started, 31st December year end. So the transaction which is recognized or which is happened within this period should recorded within this accounting period. So where is the possibility, at which age or which stage or which month there is a high possibility current year sales transfer to next year sales transfer to current year? On which stage it is possible? Year end only it is possible. Year end only it's possible. So if you are selecting like this, select a sample of sales invoice. If I select an invoice from June, definitely it will record it in the current year. If I select the invoice from February, definitely it will record it in the current year. But if I am selecting an invoice from January or December, that is the possibility you can shift that side or you can bring this side. So there is a possibility when it comes to cutoff, the invoices should be selected closer to year end. That should be mentioned. Then only you can able to test the cutoff. So if you are testing just a sample of invoice, if I ask if you are selecting from August or September or March, definitely it is recorded in the correct year. So you are confirming is the cutoff is right. So that is not exactly correct. That's why I said, even though theoretically it is correct, there is a issue. Even though theoretically it is correct, there is an issue. So simply I can say in this case, I am taking the same example, select a sample of sales invoices, fine. And I can, instead of another issue I have, sales invoice, at which point we recognize sales. I'll ask you a question, at which point we recognize sales? As per the standard? At which point we recognize sales? As per standard IFRS 16? Someone please respond. At which time, at which point we recognize sales? My simple question is, at which point a person or an entity recognize sales? I'm selling some items. At which point I can able to recognize my sales? At the time where I send goods to customer. At the time where I send goods to customer. You got my point? So normally I gives my goods right to someone. At that point I can recognize sales. At that time I can recognize sales. Right? Yes, your point is correct. Sales invoices, normally the invoice date is the time when you send the goods, right? That is fine. But industry practice, generally the practice is sales invoice they will send later, not immediately. They will send sales invoice later, not immediately. But at the time of sending goods, we are giving a document called good dispatch note. So let's take now December 31st. We send goods. Immediately we will give good dispatch note. Immediately we will give good dispatch note. And the sales invoice we might give later. So normally that's the practice. Normally that's the practice, right? So sales invoice, yes, it is issued by finance department. Yes, it normally, generally it is issued later. Sometime it is issued on time. So that is, both are there. So what I said is, instead of checking sales invoice, it is more accurate if I take good dispatch note, because that is the point where that control comes to my head. I'm dispatching goods, I'm giving right to someone. At that point, I can able to control him as the part of receivable. So I'm happy, exactly I'm happy if I cover good dispatch note in this case instead of sales invoice. So if you want, you can take, both sales invoice and good dispatch note, because you won't miss anything at that point. But if you are taking only sales invoice, there is a possibility you might miss point, right? So simply that's the point I want to share. Fine. So GDN, yes, Kausa, what is the point? Yeah, at the transfer of control of goods. Simply, yes. So at which point we are transferring the control? At the time we are transferring goods. At the time of we are transferring goods. Simply the correct document. Ahmad, your point is correct, brother. Actually, what I'm saying is here the relevant document is GDN. That is the accurate document instead of taking sales invoice. See, small things, but it will give a proper meaning. So you need to understand the rationales when you are writing a procedure. So select a sample of GDN. Right. So I'll take GDN because that's the point which give transfer rights, right? And select a sample of GDN before, comma, after year end. See my wording. Before and comma after year end. I think for your reference, only I'm explaining this. Did you study a sample called block sampling? Did you study a sample called block sampling? So block sampling means we are selecting a sample like a block. So that block sampling should be used here. So before year end means December 25th to December 31st, January 1st to January 5th. So whatever the GDN issued at last 5 days, GDN issued first 5 days. I'm taking a sample of GDN before and after year end to confirm. Simply I can say cutoff, or else you can say whether I verify whether it is correctly recorded in the period. You got my point. See, if you are writing this procedure, yes, you can write Osama. That's a perfect. Yes, before after means pre post year end. Yes, this is the procedure which will reduce your audit risk at lowest level. But if you are taking this, still there is a possibility of risk. If you are taking sales invoice, still there is a possibility of risk. So if I am a marker, let's take for one procedure, if I am giving 1.5 marks, that's the target. Normally, every substantive procedure will hold 1.5 marks. But when you are writing substantive procedure, assume 1 mark, write more procedures, right? So let's take, if I am giving 1.5 marks, for this, I will give half marks. For this, I'll give half marks because the student understood the format. I'm sorry, I don't know who is the student, but just forget about it. He gave a point to us to learn today, right? So his point, most of the students' answers are like this. When we are seeing, yes, it's cover action, source and objective, but when it comes to rational, yes, there is an issue. Yes, there is an issue. So when you are writing a procedure, when you are writing a substantive procedure, always think whether whatever that I want to achieve, whether it is actually achieved or not. So here he wants to achieve cutoff, but it is not actually achieved. Right? If we test up invoice from the July, and if we said yes, correctly involved at cutoff met means still there is a possibility for misstatement, still there is a possibility for audit risk. That is what I want to share with you all. Any questions with my explanation? Any question with my explanation? Hope you all understood. Is it clear? Is it clear? Anyone? Right. Now, I'll tell you some tips to you all, because when you are handling a question, there are correlations. If you identify the relation, it is easy, right? Simply, I can make it as numbers, but it's a process. You might study this process under sales system. The first one is receiving orders. The first activity of sales is receiving orders, right? The second activity is goods dispatched. The third activity is invoice raising. This is your sales system. This is your sales system. Fourth activity is payment received. Sorry. Fourth activity is sales recorded. Sales recorded. And fifth activity, payment received. Payment received. So these are the main activities of sales. Cast and out and perform cutoff testing of sales invoices to verify cutoff. Yes, that is a summary. Yes, but yeah, fine. Okay, yes, correct. Fine. So cutoff test in the sense cast out and perform cutoff test. Cutoff test is the word normally we used for this one, right? So if you are using instead of before, after year end invoices or GDN, simply if you are say perform cutoff test, it covers these things. But okay, fine. Good word. That word is covered this part. So ultimately, action objective and the source should be covered. That is covered by cutoff test, the word itself, right? Okay, receiving order. Keep one thing in your mind. When you are writing audit procedure over income statement elements, especially purchases or sales, I'll give you a small tip. In that case, here I took sales. For sales, if you are starting inspecting from order to payment received. For example, selecting a sample of sales order and compare against good dispatch note, invoice raise, and the amount of sales invoice and the amount of sales recognized in the control account and things. This will confirm completeness. This will confirm what? Completeness. So if you are starting from the order, select a sample of order, compare again with dispatch note. That is completeness. Starting point to ending point, if you travel, it will ensure completeness. This will ensure completeness. So some students write assertions for completeness. Yes, it should go like this. For example, if you want, I can type like this. For your convenient, select a sample of sales order and agree to GDN, sales invoice. GDN sales invoice to confirm completeness. To confirm what? Completeness. Procedure is done. So here my action is a kind of a inspection, or as we can say kind of a comparison, and the document is GDN or sales order, all those are comes under source. Objective is completeness. So always when you travel like this, so instead of sales order, if you take GDN and sales invoice, still completeness. If you take sales invoice and the sales value recorded in the ledger, yes, still it is completeness, right? But better if you start from the sales order. Why? That is, you can keep the risk at lowest level. And also, if you are travel the other way around, which means this way, if you traveled in the other way around, it will make sure occurrence. It will make sure occurrence. It will make sure occurrence. So if you are taking, select a sample of sales invoice, and agree to GDN, that is occurrence. That is occurrence. Fine. Is it possible that sales order can cancel? Yes, is it possible that sales order can cancel? But through that we can able to confirm. That's why I touch all these things. I'm not just comparing sales order with someone, right? I'm taking sales order and the GDN plus something else. Therefore, this part is important. So here only it is confirmed because all the orders are not dispatched, right? There is a possibility some orders received but not dispatched. So if you compared all things, yes, 100% you are checking completeness. Fine. But if you are taking only two, sales order and GDN, yes, as you said, there is a possibility for cancellation. So better to touch more than that. At least after GDN, you should touch, right? So that is completeness. And if you come back side or to the reverse, it will confirm occurrence. So this will happen for purchases also. You should take the purchase items, how it's making purchase as per purchase system. So if you are moving starting point to ending point, yes, completeness. Ending point to starting point, it will confirm occurrence, right? Okay, any questions? Shall we move to the question now? Shall we move to question? Any doubts? Understood? Whatever things we discussed? Okay, fine. So let's quickly move. So I think if you need to take a screenshot or whatever, I'll give 1 minute. You can quickly take it. Yeah, yeah, boss. Yes, your point is correct. Yes, correct. In order to confirm accuracy, most of the time, yes, you need to recalculate. Ahmad, yes, correct. So recalculate of discounts, sales tax deductions, all those things. Exactly. Yes, Awais, point is correct. I mean, how do we confirm accuracy? Normally, simply recalculations. The accuracy is most of the time is calculated. Accuracy is confirmed through recalculations. Most of the time, recalculations. Right. Okay, fine. So let's move to the question. So move to ACCA website. Move ACCA website. Let's move to March, June. Two 2019. Let's move to March, June 2019. For non-current asset, we can recalculate depreciation. Yes, you can. Or appoint an external value for life asset. You can. What assertions does analytic procedures verify? General completeness. General completeness. So quickly move to this ACCA's website and select CBE paper March, June 2019. March, June 2019. Let's move to question number, I think 18. Let's check. 18 or 19. 18, sorry, correct.
Sorry, I forget to share one thing with you all. I'm sorry. I didn't give how the stories might cook, especially substantive procedure, what type of scenarios or what type of questions are possible. So I didn't share with you all. So I want to share that first. Then you can able to we can practice questions, right? So this is anyway important. Examinable question formats. Examinable question formats, right? So yesterday I gave for test of control. Likewise, if it is substantive procedure, how examiner might ask questions, right? So this is something relate with the substantive procedures. Okay, fine. So the first thing is examiner might ask a question with audit procedures. Audit procedures over concentrate important. If examiner asks just audit procedures over sales, there are certain MCQs in your past paper. Examiner asks to write audit procedures. Examiner just asks you write audit procedures over sales. If the question is audit procedures over sales, you can take both test of control for sales system plus substantive procedures. You can write both. Try to understand the formats. Huh? You can write both. If they just are audit procedures, right? There are MCQs like that, right? Number two, the old past papers generally they ask just audit procedures, right? So sales system related test of control you should write, and you should write substantive procedures as well if that is the case. Second possible question, substantive procedures relates with substantive procedures relates with an element of financial statement, element of financial statement, an element of financial statement. So I think there's a question. Can we write analytical procedures also if they ask to write audit procedures? Yes, you can. You can. You can write TOD, you can write ARP, you can write test of control, or you can write if they just ask audit procedures. Okay. This is not TOD. I just mean it is test of control, because the question is audit procedures. You should write. You can write test of controls procedures also. You can write substantive procedures also. So the students who practice past papers properly, you might able to identify this. You can able to identify this. There are past paper questions. Substantive procedures relates with an element of financial statement. If this is the case, what you should do is you should write ARP or test of detail. But I suggest you to write more test of detail, 1 or maximum 1 or 2 ARP, right? So here if you want I can give example. Substantive procedures over sales. So that's the example for this type of questions. So this type of questions also possible. What we did was this type of question. What we did was this type of question. Clear? This is second type of format, substantive procedure questions. Third one. What's an ARP? Osama, the answer is ARP is identifying plausible relationship. My God, good question. Okay, the students who don't know ARP, you should ask like this, sir. If you don't know what is audit, sir, what is audit, you should ask. Otherwise, you feel comfortable. You don't feel comfortable, huh? Right? Okay, I'll explain. So this is something we assessing. Yes, yeah, something assessing plausible relationship among financial and non-financial information. Right. So make it simple. You guys might study the correlation, regression analysis and all. Right. I'm not going to teach that, but we can see some kind of relationship between financial elements and non-financial elements. For example, if sales increased, definitely the cost of sales also should increase. You got my point? That's a positively correlated things. So if I say in this ARP, what we are doing is, let's take sales, it's increased by 120%. Sales increased by 120%. But on the other hand, cost of sales, it's reduced by 500%. Is it possible? Is it possible? This is not possible. So we are identifying these relationships and see whether there is any possibility for misstatement. If some scenario is given, sales is increasing by 120%, on the other hand, cost of sales is reducing by 500%. Now, if I am an auditor, if I am performing an ARP, comparing current sales with previous sales, as a result of that, I identified what? 120% increase. And also I'm comparing current year cost of sales with the previous year cost of sales, and I identified cost of sales decreased by 500%. Problem. There is a problem. That relationship says there is a problem. So then I'll move to test of detail. So ARP means we can do ratio analysis, we can compare with current figure with previous figure, we can compare with current figure with budgeted figure, we can compare with current figure with industry figure, and we can do a trend analysis to see whether there is any possibility, to see the relationship, this relationship, improper relationship. Then that is what called ARP. Let's take a rent. Rent is normally a fixed cost. So if we put a trend curve, it should be a straight line or else step up. So if I'm performing a trend analysis for rent, but it is fluctuating like ECG report, then there is a problem. That is what called ARP. Hope you all understand. Is it clear? Osama, understood? Okay, then Fahad, you have a question. Sir, sometimes they ask substantive procedures on. That's right. I still didn't complete, brother. Wait. Good. I think you did more past papers. Superb. Good. The third examinable question, as Fahad said, substantive procedures relates with an element of financial statement, but test only selected assertions. Test only selected assertions. This is the third type of question. Third type of question. Math question. This is most of the students feel a bit difficult, right? So if that is the case, what you should do is you should apply again test of detail, right? Analytical review procedures, by try to avoid as much as you can, right? Because maximum most of the analytical procedures are completeness. So if this specific assertion, then you can't apply ARP for all the cases, right? So keep that in mind. So when this third type, you should focus over TOD, right? You can perform both, right? But it should focus on the specific assertions. For example, substantive procedures over sales to confirm occurrence. This is the example. So we are performing substantive procedures over sales, but we want to confirm what? Occurrence. So this is what you need to understand, the third type. So let's move to fourth one. Before that, Any questions? Ahmad, what I didn't get whether what about audit risk? I didn't get your question. Which means you are asking like this: audit risk response falls which category? Audit risk response is a planning procedure. That is audit procedure. Don't take it as one of the category like this. So audit procedures response to audit procedure means yes, it can be audit procedure. Kind of questions about audit risk already I gave the very first day. I gave audit risk questions. There are three type of question. One is objective test question, second one identify and response to risk, third one analytical procedure, identify risk and response to risk. So you can refer my first day video. First day I did audit risk with the examinable questions, how it is tested. Second day I explained ethics, how it is tested, examinable question. Third day we discussed test of control, right? So please one more example for ARP. Analytical review procedure, one more example, comparing current figure with previous figure, something like that is an ARP anyway, right? Or else we can see ratio analysis, we can do ratio analysis, that is also anyway ARP. Don't worry, I'll do one question, then you can able to understand. I'll do one question. So while I'm doing the question, you can able to understand ARP part, right? So ultimately, what we are trying to achieve in the ARP is seeing plausible relationship, the possibilities of the relationship. Right? Fourth question, market. It is very important, no? Because this is the most students will. I don't think that you feel difficult. You feel easy, but you won't get marks if you get questions like this. Right? Past paper 2014 June. You should practice past paper. I think it is June. Nah? Otherwise, anyway, 2014 is confirmed. You should check this past paper. There is a question substantive procedure, right? This scenario is something relate with. I ask you to check this past paper definitely. Yeah? There is a problem. They give something relate with customer circularization. Customer circularization, right? So issue relate with customer circularization. So they speak about a problem relates with customer servization, right? So please practice that question. What I'm saying is, fourth one, yes, there is a possibility examiner might ask substantive procedures, or else he can ask audit procedures, right? Over specific problem given. Over specific problem given. Right. So the core issue or the problem will be given. Give me 1 second, 1 minute, huh? Because I can't speak, you can't hear you. It's very closer to most. Okay, fine. Fourth one, substantive procedures over specific problem given. So there might be a problem in the scenario. You should apply audit procedures to resolve that problem. Right? So I'll give a small example in that case to understand that question format. Okay, before that, there is a question. Wait, Azad. Sometimes it links to substantive procedures with the scenario. So for that, we can write a normal procedure given in the book, or do we have to write only relating to the scenarios? That's the point, Azad. I want to explain. This comes to the fourth point. Your question is relate with the fourth one, right? You cannot write general procedures. General procedures are irrelevant in this case. I'm not saying irrelevant. You are not testing what you ask to test. You are not testing what you ask to test. If they ask to test sales, you can write whatever the procedures in the book or whatever the things you by heart. But if they ask something related with the problem, co-issue, you should give a procedures that is going to resolve that co-issue. Right. So in simple case, if you are writing a general procedure in that case, you won't get marks. Sometime examiner might give, but I don't think he will give full marks. Right. So example, there's a past paper question. I can remember that past paper 2014. I'll just draft that case here to explain this format. Huh? Right. So company, sorry, auditor. I can say this auditor issued customer circularization. Auditor issued customer circularization to receivables or else customers. But some respond with differences. Some respond with differences, and most of them didn't respond to auditor. So this is the case. This is the case. I'll take this as an example to explain fourth question. So here, if you are writing audit procedures over receivable, answer is incomplete. So here what they expect, the auditor issued circularization to receivables, but some receivable they respond, some of them, most of them they didn't respond. So at this stage, what you should do? So they ask to explain substantive procedures for this particular problem. So if you are writing substantive procedures for general sales, you will get a small portion of the marks, you won't get full marks. So in this case, what you can do, that's the answer. So you need to resolve this problem. So please mark a fourth one. Please mark fourth one. When you are getting a question from this part, you should get ready well. So that's why I suggest you to refer 2014 June past paper to get an understanding about this type of substantive procedure questions. Right. Apart from that, we can say another important question format. Another important question format that I can say, that is number 5. That is the last one. Number 5, objective test questions possible. This time also I'm expecting 9 object test questions. Again, it is also scenario based audit procedures. Scenario based audit. These are the examinable questions. Okay, I'll give 1 minute, just take a screenshot. And if you have any questions, you can ask. Yes, of course, Ahmad. Yes, tomorrow I will upload. Okay, Feroz, this is one of a bank reconciliation procedure. Okay, agree the balance as per the cash book to year-end cash book. Is this enough? Oh, I do have to put. Okay, that's what I told. Always no need to mention the assertion. Sometimes assertions are hidden. Okay, I'll make it simple. Feroz, I'll make it very simple. Comparing current year sales with the previous year sales and identify the difference. If there is any difference, we should discuss with the management. I'm not mentioning any assertion here. But what I'm mentioning, indirectly I'm saying, yes, I'm going to test completeness. So you should mention the objective assertion, or else you should make sure the reader can able to understand what you are going to do. Right. So that's why I told the action and the objective sometime might be hidden. Right. And also, Asad, I think now your point is clear. I think now your point is clear. I'm not saying that you should write test of detail only. I'm not saying you should write analytical procedures only. No, that is not like that. Anything that you can write, like a response to auditors, anything you can write in this case, but you should resolve the problem. But you should resolve the problem. This is not, I'm not saying you should use test of detail or ARP or whatever. You should write anything, but what you should do, you should resolve the problem. You can't take general things here. Clear? Hope you all understood the formats of these substantive procedures. Please get ready for this in your exam. So shall I move to the question? Shall I move to the question? The Word document which I have now here, I won't upload today. Tomorrow only I'm going to upload to you all, right? Because at the last I can able to upload everything together. Fine. So let's quickly move to the question now. Now you have a clear idea about this formats. Now you know clear idea about the formats of substantive procedures. So I suggest you to take at least one question from this pattern and practice how to respond the answer. Just practice like that. Then it is easy. But most of the times, it comes under first two categories. In first, second or third category, this fourth type is rare. But if you get, you should know how to answer, right? Okay, yes, Moti, Shumaila Moti, yes. So answer 4 is circularization, follow-up call, alternative procedure. Yes, that's the thing. That's the thing. Exactly. Correct. Fine, let's move. Let's move to the question. Again, I'll move to CB platform. Right. And the students who are using CB platform first time, don't use this option. Every day I'm telling, once you click this option in your paper, everything get reset and you, sorry, yeah, everything get reset. Again, you can't redo or undo whatever, right? So don't click that first, and let's move to the scenario. Okay, the scenario is irrelevant in this case. Here it's given. So let's move. Hope you can see my screen. Better if you can able to open your CBE, right? The same thing, if you can please open, then only you can able to adapt. Typing speed is also important. Practice. All these things are simple but relevant for your paper. Anyway, if company deducts employment taxes from its employees' wages and salaries on a monthly basis and pays these to local taxation authorities in the following month. Okay, fine. At the end of financial statement will contain an accrual employment tax payable. Right. Before writing answer, you should understand what type of format it is. So they ask you substantive procedures. Okay, I'll explain. So this is substantive procedures they ask. And over what? Accrual employment tax payable, which means an element in balance sheet. And also you can make sure one thing, this is a question where you can apply substantive procedures over balance sheet element, Clear? So is this case 4? No, this is not case 4. They are not giving a problem here. They just ask you to write down substantive procedures for a balance sheet element. That's why problem is something different. They will give us problem, but here they are not mentioning any problem. This is not the problem. This is not case 4. That's the problem. Here you need to identify the question formats correctly, right? Okay, so definitely if it is a problematic situation, a problem given, they will ask like this, perform substantive procedures to resolve above matter. Likewise only they are worded. So better if you can refer June past paper, then you can get a clear picture, right? This is not a problematic case. This is just a substantive procedure for accrual payment and element of balance sheet. Okay, so with this knowledge we can do the question, we can start the question. Okay, someone come up with the answer, at least one procedure for this case. So as I said, I'll start with the ARP. Compare current accrual, employment tax payable with previous year and investigate any difference. Investigate any difference. Simply here action is ARP and source. Simply I'm comparing tax computation, employment tax computation of 2 years, and the objective is completeness. Objective is completeness. So it's a simple procedure which I start, but I'm not going to write 2 more ARP because I assume audit risk is high, right? Okay, let's take a check whether accrued payment had been made subsequently. Okay, yes, Williams, through that what you going to test? Correct. Recalculate accrual amount. Wait. There are lots of procedures. Wow, wait. I'll come one by one. Check whether accrued payment had been made subsequently. Fine. Recalculate the accrual amount. Compare financial statements for accuracy. Recalculate accrual amount and compare financial statement. I'm not. I'll bit change a small part. Recalculate accrual amount and we can compare with payroll records. We can compare with the payroll records. Always. That's what I can say here, right? So through that what you can do is if you are testing accuracy, that's the best option, taking the payroll records and you are recalculating the accrual amount, and if you want you can agree with the financial statement, right? But this point is also correct, that is too strong. And cast the total of accrued employment tax payable to what? There is a miss. I have a query from you. What? Ahmed, I didn't get, brother. Read the disclosure notes, making sure that in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework to verify. Instead of completeness, make it presentation. Normally, the disclosure notes we are checking this presentation and the classification part. Make it presentation. Do you suggest emphasize to get prepared exactly? Do you suggest or emphasize to get prepared exactly as you have shown specifically for September 2020? Do you suggest to get prepared exactly as you have shown specifically for September 20? So we can only mention the assertion. Right to confirm the completeness. or right to confirm the completeness. No need to write to confirm the completeness. No need, because that's why I told that sometime the assertions you can make it visible. Sometimes the assertions you can hide. So no, most of the procedures, sometimes the assertions might be hide. But when you are reading, yes, it will give an indication. Basically, yeah, you are trying to compute the assertion, right? So if you want, you can make it to complete assertions to confirm the assertion completeness. That is correct. I'm not saying wrong, right? Okay, normally ARP, when it comes to the answers or the script, that is the way. When it comes to ARP, generally we are testing completeness. We didn't mention. We didn't mention. Comparing current sales with previous sales, and if there is any difference, we are investigate. We stop with that point because everyone knows that is completeness, right? But anyway, if you want, you can include. I'm not saying wrong. So how this comparison shows the completeness? Because when it comes to this employment tax payable, right? So we are taking current figure with the previous figure. That's why I told, I'm not saying that ARP is always correct. Here I'm taking current year payable and last year payable, and I'm taking whether the liability is same, accrued balance is same. If the accrued balance shows significant difference, I need to investigate in detail. So if it is same, there is a possibility, yes, there is a completely it's calculated. So that's why I told it is something less reliable. It is something less reliable, right? Compare accrued, and you can take it as occurrence as well. Compare accrued tax payable as per bank statement with the tax payable calculated the client. Confirm accuracy. Yes, Fahad, correct. Discuss with management. Discuss with management to obtain details understanding regarding accrual of employment tax payable. Okay. Review post year and bank statement to confirm any tax payment made to tax authorities. Yes, exactly, correct. Select a sample of employees and reperform calculation of the accuracy accrual to confirm accuracy. Yes, correct. So anyway, I'll give one more. Recalculate, or else you can instead of that you can use agree. Recalculate year-end employment tax, year-end employment tax payable, year-end employment tax payable to payroll records to confirm accuracy. That is also correct, right? And also you can check this post period. Agree with post period cash book to confirm. I can say completeness in this case, because whatever the we should select whatever the things showed accrual this stage. So post period it is subsequently settled. So through that you can able to just say that is complete, right? So likewise you can touch. This question is not a difficult question, by the way. It's a very simple one. And also review disclosure to confirm changes in the tax format. If any, reperform the calculation to confirm that accuracy. Correct, always correct. Read the board meeting minutes to confirm the basis at which accrual for employment tax payable is determined. And compliance. It is not against legal legislation. Simply this is confirmed valuation. So this is Asad, this is confirmed the valuation. Right. So whether the basis change mean you have to value in line with the legality. That is also important. Good point. Good point. Okay, good. So now you understood this format. So this is the format of this question. If you get a format like this, I'm not saying it is difficult. It is very convenient for you all. At least most of the students will score marks when it comes to this part, or this type of question. Okay, understood? Understood? So it's very simple. If you get a question directly or balance sheet or income statement element. So please explain the third procedure. Third procedure is what here what we are doing in the third procedure. I just write like this. This is not a complete area procedure. What you should do is you should select uh, year end employment tax accrued balance payable balance. Let's take there are 5 balances, total 500, and subsequently after the year end, post year end, next year, you are seeing your cash book. Accrual means the liability, short term liability, right? So in the next year's cash book, all these are settled, which means you can able to test the completeness. We need to pay this much and we paid later. Yes, satisfied. Right? Normally audit comments after the year end, therefore you can able to test the post period. You can able to test post period cash. Is it clear? Is it clear? Away Zakar. And can you write one more? Okay, I'll do. Sit, it's a 4 mark, since it's a 4 marks question, so we need to write 2 procedures or 4 procedures. That's what I'll explain. That's what I explained to you all when I'm explaining the format. I think some student might miss that point. Very important. One procedure will normally carry 1.5 marks. One procedure will normally carry 1.5 marks, right? 0, 0.5, 0.5 for 3 things that they expected by the examiner. Right? Always objective or procedure should be visible. It is not like that. If it is not visible, still the reader can able to understand, that is fine. But I suggest you, my suggestions to my students, one procedure, take it as 1 mark. Because most of the time students, they will write improper procedure in a correct way. What is I'm saying improper procedure? That procedure will definitely increase what? Audit risk. But still, in a correct way, the format will be correct. You are writing like that. So better to write this like this. 4 marks means 4 procedures. Clear? And also, is this necessary to mention at the end of the procedure, like the procedure is completeness or accuracy? That's why, as I said, not always, but if it is possible, you should mention. Especially for test of detail, if it is possible, please mention. Test of detail, if it is possible, please mention. Right? And ARP, just ignore. ARP, just ignore. No need to mention. That's the answer I can give it to you. Right? So if it is a TOD, better to mention the objective. Right? But keep one thing in your mind: if you don't have a proper idea about the objective, if you don't have what is the assessment that you're going to test, don't mention. Definitely you will put yourself into trouble. But if you put correctly, yes, you will get full marks, right? Especially that's the suggestion, Aziz, that I can give. Hope you understood. TOD mention, ARP don't mention. And perform proof in total test, confirm expected amount of the employment tax, and compare with the calculated with the management, which means the payroll records or whatever. Correct? Okay, fine. Understood. Is all the questions are sorted here? All your doubts are sorted with this part? Shall we move to the next question then? Today itself, after finishing this webinar, please go to all the past papers. Please go to all the past papers and take and identify. That identification is important, and see how to respond for those questions. How to respond for those questions. Clear? Okay. Yes, handout is for all 5 days. Yes. Okay, now let's move to again navigator. Let's check based on my guessing. Let's move to a question 23. Superb. Best. Okay. So, in standard examiner answer, examiner will not mention objective or procedure, silent procedure. He will give full marks. In standard examiner answer, show standard examiner's answer. Wait, always is asking that standard examiner answer, it is silent. Wait, I'll check. This is the answer. Give me 1 minute. Let's check standard examiner answer. I'm getting the answer from the website itself. So give me a minute. Let's check. Good question, always anyway, Brian. So through that, if you have any questions in terms of exam, if you have any questions, you should ask. Don't keep a single doubt with you, Brian. I always prefer the students who argue, the students who come up with doubts, because those are the people who wants to learn. So let's check. Okay, I think I missed. Wait. Okay, always let's see. These are the procedures that whether I don't know whether my procedure is also there. Just check. Compare accrual of employment tax to the previous year. Investigate any significant difference. This is ARP. So as I said, no need to expect the objective. It's an ARP. The first procedure given. Second one, agree the year-end employment tax payable accrual to payroll records to confirm accuracy. It's there, no brother. And reperform the calculation. So reperformance is a procedure, calculation of the accrual sample employees to confirm the accuracy. Objective is there. And I was understood, brother. Always, is it clear? So which means examiner also including. Ahmed, I'm sorry, send your question again. Send your question again. I think I missed. Right? So the students, just I want to show this to you all. See, review disclosures of employment tax accrual, assess whether these are in compliance with accounting standard and legislation, right? So here, yes, it's a review, it's a kind of basic inspection, but the objective is not mentioned. The objective here is what? Presentation, disclosure requirement, right? And agree subsequent payment post year end cash book bank statement to confirm completeness. So that's the case, right? Normally the TOD, normally the test of detail, and generally the test of detail we cover sessions. Specifically when it comes to this classification and presentation, we not mention review financial statement to confirm classification, right? So there are the situations. So if I want to summarize everything, I'll summarize like this, brother. One is ARP, ignore. Two is classification, presentation, disclosure related things, ignore. Disclosure related things, ignore. That you can ignore, right? Because everyone knows. Because when you are reviewing a disclosure, is it possible to confirm accuracy? No. This you are reviewing something in the disclosure part. So what you can do is whether it is correctly disclosed or not. That is presentation. This only you can check. So no need to mention. You got my point? Understood? Okay. Okay, Ahmad, in order to confirm accuracy, do we need to recalculate? Most of the time, yes. Most of the time, yes. I'm not saying always. I'm not saying always. Okay. Always, I think your question is clear now, because the last procedure is something related with this thing. Yeah, understood. Is there any sequence we should kept in mind during writing procedures randomly? Make it like this. If a procedure question format comes like a specific element in the financial statement, first start with the ARP, then go through whatever the procedures you can remember, right? ARP and whatever the disclosure part, just ignore the objective and just write down. There is no need to maintain an order. But I prefer if you guys write first ARP, one procedure and move to TOD. Then the students are more quality students. The students have proper knowledge about the audit, right? So that's the thing I am requesting from you all. Other than that, you can write anything. Okay, let's quickly move to this question then. Describe substantive. Okay, one more question. So, will be opening balance verification a procedure? Yes. Opening balance verification is also a procedure. Describe substantive procedures. Yeah, opening balance. I don't know the name of that student. Sorry. For balance sheet item, yes, possible you should touch the opening balance also. There is a risk. Good. Describe substantive procedure. Auditor should perform to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence relation to valuation. See, so this is third type of. This is third type of question. So this is a substantive procedure. This is a substantive procedure, but with specific assertion. With specific assertion. Understood? So you should write inventory, but in terms of valuation only. The objective is valuation, not other than that. Someone come up with the procedures. Valuation. So you should think about the valuation perspective of inventory. Yeah, you should think about the valuation perspective of inventory. I suggest you when certain things comes with the valuation and assertions part, better to touch with the standard. Better to touch with the standard. Think about accounting standard point of view and see whether it is right or wrong. Right. For example, simple. What are the valuation techniques in the stores ledger normally we used? There are certain techniques allowed by IAS 2. One is FIFO method. Second one is last in first out method, ACCA method. But IAS 2 strictly prohibited last in first out method. So we can test that. What's the method they used? Through that we can able to confirm the valuation. And there is a problem with the cost to NRV. So if the cost is 5, NRV is 2, you should value at NRV. So if you value that cost, it is overstated. That is also valuation problem. Right. So when it comes to inventory standard clearly told, inventory include three things, three components. One is raw material, easy to value. The other one is finished good, easy to value. Problem with valuation is work in progress. So what is the method we use to value work in progress? That is what we call stage of completion. So you need to assess work in progress is correctly valued or not, because that is the risky area. You got my point? So discuss with management the basis of work in progress valuation and assets is reasonable. Make it simple. Yes, correct. That is correct. Any other things? Any other things? So I can come up with some procedures here. Right. Always, I'll come to your question. I have a doubt. Do we need to mention objective here? Do we need to mention objective here? Someone please respond. I don't know whether Always is here. Do we need to mention objective here? No, right? So this question, no need to mention the objective because everyone knows the objective is what? Everyone knows the objective is what? Valuation. That's the same thing I'm going to apply. That's the same thing that I'm going to apply for that financial statement reviews. So financial statement disclosures things are reviewing means simply everyone knows that we are going to achieve what? Presentation. So no need to mention that. Try to understand everything have a rationale. Okay, fine. So good. I'm really happy with you all that you understood the rationales rather than just by hearting things. Okay, so read the board meeting minutes to confirm whether the perpetual or periodic inventory systems used to ensure the valuation. Superb, Azad, correct. And read the board meeting minutes to confirm that the perpetual periodic inventory system. Okay, same thing. Good, correct. Right, fine. I'll take that one. I'll copy this one because I'm okay with this. I'll give full marks for this. That's why I take that. Okay, first point is correct. Give me a second. Please, all the students, please type your procedures. We joined today to update our knowledge in this area. Therefore, please do that. Please do that. Right. So I'm not in a position to copy. Anyway, fine. That point is correct. Right. So I just take two things here. I'll give a rough idea. Always take, if it is inventory related things, means take three things as per the standard. How to confirm raw material, how to confirm work in progress, how to confirm finished good. If you find out answer for this, that is the answer for that. Right. So for finished good, I can take like this. Select a sample of completed items. Select a sample of completed items and compare cost or NRV and compare cost or NRV to confirm stock valued at lower cost. Valued at lower cost. Make it simple. Make it simple. Right? So likewise, you can make it easy when it comes to questions like this. Right? So read the board meeting. Okay, fine. Any other features? Can we appoint external valuer for inventory valuation? Yes, you can get an external valuer. Correct. Inspector from the valuation independence expert to ensure the valuation. So do like this. Normally when it comes to work in progress company, they perform the valuation services. You can review if there are any valuation performed over work in progress and you can see the reasonableness over that, right? So take a sample of damaged inventory and ensure it is recorded at NRV. Okay, cool, superb. Inspect a sample of breakdown inventory cost to ensure costs are in line and discuss with the management if it is not related to inventory. So as per IAS2, yes, Nikma, your point is correct. As per IAS2, certain costs should be included, certain costs should be excluded. So we can take a breakdown of inventory cost and see whether it is correctly included. For example, I might teach that part if you want. So the cost of purchase of inventory, direct cost, any cost to convert inventory, right? All these costs can be capitalized. All these costs can be capitalized, which means you can able to recognize within your cost. But any indirect cost, any abnormal losses, any storages cost, so you can't take those things, right? Fine. We should identify the relevant valuation method. Review the inventory record in the financial statement and review inventory sold at the year end. I didn't get. Review inventory recorded in financial statement and review the inventory sold at the year end. It's not clear. Obtain the breakdown of finished goods, expense sheet, agree labor cost with the payroll. Okay, for through that, what you are going to achieve here, Akhtar? So no, but I didn't get this part. Obtain a breakdown of finished goods. Okay, finished goods expense sheet, agree labor cost with payroll. By that, you are trying to get confirm that cost is correct. Is it right? If that is the case, okay, ask management if there are any consignment of goods included in inventory to check valuation. Ahmed, superb. Yes, exactly correct. Third party inventory. Yes, correct. But again, Towser, your point is correct. Your point is correct. Valuation. Uh, Inspect from valuation of independence expect to confirm valuation. Don't mention confirm valuation, Ryan. Your point is more. Your point is correct. You can take a valuation service. No need to mention the valuation again because they ask about the valuation only, right? Okay. Review slow moving. Good. Review slow moving and obsolete inventory and confirm with management whether they are recorded lower cost or NRV. Exactly. Superb. Don't use the word like this, Azad. Using the help of expert. Already, management is not a expert in all the case. Already, management may use the expert. So, better to review the expert's work performed by management. That's the word you should use. Right. Normally, that's the case. So, better to review the expert's work performed. Okay. So, good, fine. And also, I'll give one more. Simply a simple procedure I'll give, this which you didn't mention. Discuss with management regarding the assumptions used to value work in progress. Value work in progress. And simply we can use, this is what we call reasonableness. It is what we call reasonable. What are the assumptions used to value work in progress? We can discuss with management. Right. Yes, review the age inventory analysis to ensure slow moving. That's correct. That's correct. Super. Obtain a breakdown of the standard cost. Okay. Agree the sample of these costs to actual invoices or wage records to assess their accuracy. Yes, that is valuation. Cost is correct. Yes, fine. Because when it comes to balance sheet elements, valuation and accuracy both comes together. Right. Valuation, allocation, accuracy, it comes together. So that's fine. So good. Let's move to another question. Now I try to identify what sort of substantive procedure this is. Good question. So how do we write procedure for raw material valuation? For raw material, how we can able to write procedures? Okay, I'll tell you. So for this, write down some procedures. I'll come to that point. Yes, for raw material, I'll give one procedure. I'll give one procedure for raw material now. You guys, this is the procedure for raw material. Huh? You guys come up with procedures for this question. So simply what we can do is we can select a sample of raw material items and we can match with the cost sheets. We can match with the cost sheets, right? To ensure it is correctly valued. It's correctly valued. It's easy. Through cost sheet invoices, you can able to value whether the cost is right or wrong. Yes, it's R&D. I gave raw material for the previous one. No? Research and development relate to IAS 38 or maybe IAS 16. Yes. That's what Fahad here. Why I said valuation and accuracy is together because it's a balance sheet assessment. So when it comes to balance sheet elements, valuation, allocation, and accuracy both together it comes. So that's the assessment. You can't take accuracy separately and valuation separately for balance sheet elements in the way. Right. So inventory valuation means that they are asking valuation and accuracy. Right. That's the thing. So for the we need to assess whether R&D recognition agrees the standard, right? Yes. So I'll place this one. So I can give some examples, some procedures. In this case, we can take research elements. We can take the research element and we can match with the invoices and supporting documents to confirm its cost, and also we can ensure whether it is charged to income statement or not. Right? And also other thing is for capitalized things, capitalized development cost, we can check whether it is meet IAS 38 intangible asset standards or not. Right? And also as per the standard, whether you, I don't know whether you can able to understand the points which is given in the standard or whether you know or not. So normally if this technically feasible, if any development cost is technically feasible, if there is any active market for that development cost, if these conditions are satisfied, simply we can able to capitalize. Why? Because it's need the definition of the asset. What is asset? It's a resource, it is controlled by entity, and it brings economic benefit. So a resource, yes, we develop, it's a resource development, and it is controlled by the entity. Yes, I am controlling, but I am not sure whether it will bring economic benefit or not. That's why we are charging it as to research cost to income statement. If we can confirm, yes, definitely it will bring economic benefits to us, we can capitalize. So we need to see the technical feasibility to complete the project. We can able to see the feasibility to market that product, whether I can use for own production or else we can able to sell in the active market. So we can see that if that is the case, yes, that development cost you can capitalize. So we need to see whether there is an active market for that. So we can see whether technically feasible to complete that project, whether we have capacity to do that. Right. So these are the things that you should do. And when it comes to this development cost, we should use exactly amortization cost model. Intangible asset standard said we can use cost model. So what we can do is we can recalculate these amortization things, amortization schedule, amortization charge, and the intangible assets to confirm they are in line with this amortization model. You got my point. And okay, if you want, just I can mention that also here, because that's why I told, when it comes to the certain things, you need to understand the standards. You need to understand the standards because standard knowledge is very important. So here amortization is the point, amortization is a point, but amortization should begins as per the standard IAS 38, amortization should begins at the point where we can use that particular intangible asset. At the point where we can use that intangible asset. See, when it comes to the IAS 38, when it comes to this IAS 38, intangibles with a definite useful life. Simply, if any intangible with a definite useful life, we can use amortization model. We can able to amortize over the useful life. That useful life is the period where we can actively use that asset. So in this case for development cost, what we can do is we can simply see when this particular development is occurred, when the actually when not only development, when this particular intangible assets, when is the benefits commence, because otherwise you can't do amortization. It should begin the point where you start to use that one. Fine. So touch the standard points. Try to touch the standard points here. So very easy. And here recalculation of amortization charge. Okay, confirm accurate value for intangible asset is undertaking financial statement by deducting change value from the asset value. Yes, correct. In an indirect way, you are saying, Nazim, correct. Discuss the management for the 3 new computing software projects, their completion stage, and whether they are correctly capitalized in accordance with capitalized and expense out according to IAS 38. Yes, your point is correct, Ishfa. So if you want, you can explain a bit detail whether it's meet the conditions. That's why I take the conditions out. Whether it is technically feasible to complete or not, whether it will bring economic benefits or not, whether it has active market or not, whether we can use inside or not, whether there is a possibility to sell in the market or not. Likewise, we can able to check. Likewise, we can able to check, right? So that is fine. And so this is the case which relates to an element of balance sheet. Exactly, it depends research cost, because they ask research and development. If the research is P&L, development is balance if the condition satisfied. If the condition is not satisfied, again it is comes under what? P&L, right? So I suggest you all, if you get a standards like intangible asset, research and development, employment benefit, related party transaction, revaluation, likewise things if you get, I'll suggest you, please go with the standard arrangement, but standard suggested, whether it is there or not. That's why I think you can remember when I explained substantive procedure assertion is something, it is suggested by standard. If you comply with the standard, automatically it is complied assertion. If you are satisfying standards and ISA, automatically it is what? Complete. It automatically it is support you to comply with the assertion. So better if this is the case comes, standard related case comes, just cross check against the standard. That is very important. If directly financial statement elements that comes, again revenue also, what we did was we did some kind of IFRS 17 arrangement at which point it is transferred likewise, right? So better to think in that point, then it is easy for you all to achieve, right? Compare and development with general ledger to ensure completeness. Okay. Inspect invoices to confirm actually $0.8 expense charged on development on asset. Yes, by taking the breakdowns also, correct, fine. Review the feasibility of the project to ensure development cost capitalized in line with IAS 38. Fine, exactly. What is the assertion always here? So let's take this. I think everyone can see. Is it possible? Everyone can see this. Review the feasibility of the project to ensure development cost capitalized in line with IAS 38. What is the assertion here? The assertion is the valuation, whether it is correctly valued, accurately valued, accuracy and the valuation, balance sheet, development. Confirm the criteria is reasonable. Agree to the amounts, the balance sheet to ensure valuation. Yes, correct. Cost the total research and development cost to ensure accuracy, correct? Okay, that's the part. That's the part. Okay, so it's fine. Did you understood apart from for this, especially for the areas like substantive procedure? Any questions? Did you all understood what we discussed today? Especially the format of the part, formats of the questions and how to approach answers. Did you all understood? And also here, the third next question, see, if I try to identify what is the part here, describe substantive procedures auditors should perform, obtain sufficient appropriate evidence, relate to sales tax liability, This is also like that, right? So most of the questions are the substantive procedures focused on element of financial statement, but there is a possibility for specific taxation also. But don't forget to practice June past paper. Don't forget it is June past paper to understand specific problem. So as a summary, what I can suggest to you all is, you know how to write answer. What are the things that you should include, right? If it is ARP or if it is a classification review, no need to mention the objective. So if it is a specific assessment question, no need to mention objective because that's the question itself, right? But other way around, you should think if there's any standard areas, you need to think the standard arrangement, especially for inventory. If someone is asking audit procedures over inventory, so you should think about the standard. If someone is asking audit procedures over property plant, you should think about the standard. If someone is asking audit procedures over sales or revenue, you should think in the standard point as well, and you should think in line with the TOC as well. TOC means the procedures that we use, the documents, everything. But ultimately, a financial statement, you should be able to prove that you understood the rationals, right? So I explained the format, what we should touch, but keep one thing in your mind, don't just take that format, take the rationale also. The best example is that cutoff test which I explained, right? So don't just take the format and just put something into that format and write, then you don't feel I did the superb work, definitely I will get full marks, right? So one action means inspect, one process, source document is some other documents, and objective, right or wrong, you just mention. So don't follow that. That is the mistake most of the students are doing. That's the most of the students are doing. So you should practice with two things. One is the format. The second thing is the rationale. Ultimate objective of a substantive procedure is what? Reducing audit risk at financial statement level. Because we try to reduce audit risk, which means possibility of providing inappropriate opinion at system level, but there are control failures which increase the mistakes or misstatements. That's why we come to financial statement level. Keep that in your mind. Always think about the rationale, and your side you should keep yourself safe position. You can keep yourself at safe position. Clear? Okay, right, fine. Okay, before wind up, any questions you have? Is this today's session is productive? Did you study or learn anything that will make you pass? Is it clear? Is it clear? Is it useful? Substantive procedures? Cover sales tax liability previous year to identify the significant difference to discuss with management. Akbar, yes, correct. Is it possible to get that's I already told. Okay, fine. Any other things? Any other questions or any other things that you uh, clarify? I think no questions, right? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can ask. I have another 2 or 3 minutes, right? So if you have any questions, you can ask. I can explain, right? Do you have any questions? Is it right if say risk area we use procedures where answer as a response? In control area we apply test of control. Yes, correct. Okay, fine, sir. Just test of control or audit procedure to test the system. Substantive procedures. Wait. I can't see your questions clearly. Okay, fine. I think no questions from your side, so it's better to stop the session, right? So let's meet tomorrow with April and some revision questions, right? Okay, thank you very much. We'll meet tomorrow.